we allow them to do that so that they don't have to come up with a lump sum of 20%. So it's just a payment that's in place. It's the one plan that we do have for prior year delinquent, secured, and supplemental taxes.
And there's interest that accumulates on that unpaid
on the remaining
already.
balance.
So this is
right.
just the administrative portion of that.
Right. This would be just a one-time fee that we would charge right at the beginning, and then do all the work, however many years it takes us to do the work.
Okay. Thank you.
Before you run off, how many other counties have such a payment plan?
Every single one of them.
Okay.
It's in the state.
And this is in an effort to get compliance to pay their taxes and not move to the next step?
It basically, it can actually stop that when we record a power to sell on the properties after 5 years, there's actually that 5-year window where they can start the payment plan and make payments for 5 years. So they can actually be making payments for, or let their taxes go for almost 10 years, really. Yeah, so it's nice. It's just the one plan that the state allows us to do.
Well, I appreciate you bringing this forward as a new idea and get people back in track, and which in turn helps us out.
Yeah, and what I did was I actually contacted the other counties to see what they charged, and there was some pretty substantial fees out there that other tax collectors charge, but these are the ones that I'm comfortable with, that I'm really comfortable with, so I'm hoping you'll recommend them.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just a comment on the solid waste fees, and I know they appear to be somewhat nominal, but, and I have no problem with them per se, but I hope that it's something that we may end up revisiting should the issue that the CEO brought forward on his report in regard to the proposals for privatization go forward, and those changes may be actually decrease. So with that understanding, I have no problem with what's being proposed today. Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns, opinions to the three departments?
Mr. Chair. I would just like to make one more comment regarding the solid waste fees. Today, the fee increase is for increases in the subhauler contracts for diesel gas prices. There is some additional fee increases that we might consider in the future, and a bigger discussion on some of the administrative costs regarding some of the solid waste landfill sites and Casper Station in particular, which we would like to have the opportunity to come back to the board later and have a full discussion.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'll take public comment on this item at this time. Anyone wishing to speak to this item, please step forward, state your name for the record, and try and keep your comments to 3 minutes. Please.
Thank you. And Doug Hammerstrom, Mayor of Fort Bragg, and speaking to the self-haul fee setting for Casper Transfer Station. The county finances the Casper Station jointly with the city of Fort Bragg, and there's a contract that provides direction how that's carried out, that provides for the city and the county jointly to set a budget and set self-haul fees for that. We have been meeting pursuant to that contract with a committee that's composed of Supervisors Colfax and Smith and Council Member Dan Jurdy and myself, and we have been meeting along with staff of the city and county regarding that process of coming to a joint setting of fees and setting of the budget. And so I'm here today to speak to having you integrate that contract into your determination. So I'll try to go quickly and leave to any questions, any elaboration you might have. The city wants, as the contract provides, for the fees to cover the costs and not charge our general fund, and basically have this be a self-supporting enterprise operation. The meetings that we've had have helped clarify the costs, and we think this will facilitate creating savings as well as determining the revenue needs. The last thing that I've seen for Casper indicates that a $34 per yard self-haul fee would be needed to cover the costs. I think there was some possible revenue, but I think that somewhere in the $30 to $34 range is what would be needed to cover the costs. We haven't seen what it is for other transfer stations, but I suspect because Casper has the most volume, that it has the most ability to spread its fixed costs out, and so that I would anticipate that the other transfer stations would have an even higher cost. So we were billed this year for 2 years ago in our committee discussion, reaching for the revenue to be covered by the fees the city has settled for this bill that we received this year and the following bill, that we would pay more than that it would be subsidized by some payments and not covered entirely by the self-haul fees. But this is the budget for now the third year of what we've been discussing, and we would expect that this year the fees would cover the costs. And I would just note that the proposed fee increase doesn't even cover the year-to-year increase in costs, and so we're kind of going backwards from reaching the goal of having the fees cover the costs. So there's obviously a lot of detail embedded in that presentation. If you have questions, I'll answer them. And I don't know exactly how you take what I presented into either your decision today or procedurally how you handle this matter going forward. So,
Okay, hold on one second, Doug. Supervisor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the $34 number that the mayor is referencing is what I recall our solid waste director brought out to us at the last fee hearing when he actually gave us the number of what it costs to operate the transfer stations countywide. That was the bottom line cost without any general fund subsidy. So I think that's a number that he brought to us. We would have and understand the real cost of doing business. So I think in the interest of getting more clarification on what Mayor Hammerstrom's talking about, it might be good to have Mr. Miller come forward and just give us a little bit of an overview of the fees in front of us today, which, as we've noticed, are minor changes, but also referencing what Ms. Wyatt's comments on, and I believe the CEO's comments as well, about the need to revisit some of these issues possibly at the end of summer as we go forward with a better understanding of fuel costs and budgetary impacts from the state and so forth, that we'll have another opportunity to look at that. And I think that that's what the mayor is saying, that the city very much, as a partner with us, wants to revisit that. And I know there are cost issues that are going to be very clearly looked at all the solid waste facilities in their operations. Where can we accomplish some cost savings? I think we need to do this wherever the general fund dollars are being allocated. What can we do? So I think it'd be good to have a little bit of an overview so we have some understanding about the points being made by the city of Fort Bragg.
Any objections from the board to have Mr. Miller come forward and answer any questions?
Might be Mr. DeShield, I'm not sure.
I think he's decided to let me lead with my chin.
Oh, okay. It's a mighty one.
Yes. Mr. Chair, members of the board, good afternoon. The mayor makes some very good points. The overall $35 charge, it takes into respect all our different county self-haul stations. Some are operated at a different rate depending on their volume than, say, one like Casper that has a very large volume. So he's quite right. Probably when we break out the amounts, they'll be different. Interesting to note, though,